Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Monday, the 6th of January, 2020, and it's currently 8:15 in the evening. And earlier today, in fact, just an hour or two ago, we published a video entitled Traders Return, Gold and Silver Prices Rise. And in case you haven't had an opportunity to listen to it, we place a link in the description box below. Now, the purpose of this video, and we hope we're going to curtail it literally to 10 minutes, so this will be a great challenge indeed. We thought we would ask, controversially, Greg, about 3 headline subjects published today. The first is the subject of Qasem Soleimani's funeral, where hundreds of thousands of Iranians turned up. The second is that John Bolton has just announced that if the Senate subpoenas him, then he will give evidence to the Senate. And thirdly, how come people who have to go to trial are perfectly fit before the trial, but then turn up with Zimmer frames and walking sticks? So, without further ado, we shall go over to controversially Greg and seek his wisdom and test his powers of sageism on these very important topical subjects. Greg, good evening.
Good evening.
Qasem Soleimani, hundreds of thousands have turned up to his funeral. What does this tell you?
It tells me that this is probably one of the biggest funerals in the world since 1989 and the funeral of Ayatollah Khomeini. Also in Iran, they're very big on funerals. They turn them into what I see as rather showy and distasteful displays of power, which is not really what a funeral is in the Western world. However, one must be impressed at the degree of fear that can be inflicted on the Iranian people by the regime, that it can turn out so many of its population. Though I am absolutely certain that there were many who all but worshipped the ground on which Qasem Soleimani walked and his achievements on behalf of the regime. There were also those who hated him, and it would be unwise in Iran to have failed to turn up for the funeral, because this is a country where you can be accused without any provenance of adultery or homosexuality and find yourself strangled with a rope round your neck and hung from the gibbet of a crane. So one has to wonder how many of these people are there, shall we say, by durance vile, and how many are there out of genuinely respect for this man. However, having said that, America, in my opinion, has been rather foolish in its handling of this matter, and it seems to be taking its diplomatic skills in very big measure from Marvel Comics. It has always been said that jaw is better than war. I can understand and empathize with his frustration in that they have squandered billions of dollars in Iraq trying to buy popularity. And as with almost everybody who tries to buy popularity, have found that they're about as popular as a pork chop in a mosque. It must be daunting to see so many hundreds of thousands of people turning out for the funeral of a person that very few people in the West knew who he was.
Well, indeed, Greg, on that note, many of the newscasters today have been, to some degree, praising Soleimani's role in the destruction of ISIS and feel that the attack on him was a mistake. Now, we have only 10 minutes in total, and this is just a third of the subject. So in a nutshell, do you think that the numbers that have turned out to the funeral is or are indicative, A, of his popularity, and B, of the potential repercussions that may be levied against the West as a result of his killing?
I believe that at the moment we will see the frontline spokespersonnel for Iran, and also be minded that not only did the president of Iraq attend the funeral in Tehran, but so also did the past president, both supposedly close allies and, it would have been hoped, strongly supportive of America. America finds itself completely isolated within the Middle Eastern region, apart from possibly the Wahhabi in Saudi Arabia, who they have been supplying with arms. So also of Britain, despite the fact that they are being used almost instantly for an oppressive war and appalling casualties of the civilian population of the Yemen. It is a very unstable region. It is a volatile region, and as with most volatile situations, it is best handled with care, not shows of strength, but shows of acumen, sagacity, and careful diplomacy. I believe that this assassination was a mistake.
Right. Well, talking about potential mistakes, John Bolton, the former White House National Security Advisor to President Trump, has announced today that he is willing to testify at President Trump's impeachment trial in the Senate. Now, we all know that once Pelosi hands over the articles of impeachment, the Senate is going to try and deal with that as quickly as possible and hopefully not call any witnesses. Now, the fact that someone as important as John Bolton has said, well, if they do call witnesses, I will give evidence. Do you think the fact that he is willing to give evidence will now put pressure on the Republicans in the Senate to call witnesses?
I think it may do. However, an undertaking to give evidence does not mean that he will be called, point one. Point two, it is no indication of what evidence he will give. He may well actually provide a document saying, I will speak within the following parameters, and use his lawyers to make sure that he doesn't tread off of a predetermined path. And bearing in mind the degree of intrigue, dare I say, dishonesty that seems to surround this government, do we actually have any indication that he would tell the truth? This man is a hawk. He will applaud the nature of many of the errors of judgment that I believe Trump has made, and it could be speculated that he gave up his job because he was not happy at the fact that Trump was ameliorating his actions. So I question just how valid any contribution from such as he would be in a trial of Trump's activities.
Well, it was only announced less than an hour ago, so we shall no doubt see many news alerts on that very subject. Now, finally, Greg, we have just a couple of minutes left and we're doing well. Can you please explain to me how so many potential defendants are perfectly fit one day, and then when they go into court, all of a sudden, they're either on Zimmer frames, crutches, wheelchairs? Just two very quick examples. Paul Manafort, prancing around in expensive suits, then all of a sudden is wheeled into court in front of the jury. And today, Harvey Weinstein, walking around, and it's in all the news, with a quasi-Zimmer frame.
I'll say he managed to get up the court steps very easily when the Zimmer frame was dispensed with, and that's going upstairs. That he walks at a 45-degree angle on his Zimmer frame would indicate that he doesn't have much practice on it. However, this is not unique to the American system. What concerns me even more is the number of cases brought, and as I understand it, even in Weinstein's charges, there were originally a number of other young women who had availed themselves of the casting couch that everybody, since time immemorial, been a part of Hollywood casting, who have received a settlement in return for dropping their case against him. I would have seen that, if we're going to talk of justice, as the great flaw in the American justice system that you can buy off your accusers with adequate money. We saw it happen with Michael Jackson, and again it happens. I have a great degree of skepticism of the validity of the level of justice in some of these high-profile cases. To revert to the concept of tottering around on a Zimmer frame you don't need, we do see this happening in the British courts also, sadly. You may recall Ernest Sanders in the Guinness trial, who was a director, an executive director, Guinness, one of the largest breweries in Britain, who, when it came to trial, put forward an image of being all but a gibbering wreck, suffering from
Dementia, wasn't it?
mental illness and senility. And yet, after his sentencing, he miraculously recovered. Perhaps that was imbibing too much of his company's product. I don't know. But it does make one terribly skeptical of how justice works. It does all too often look as if justice is not just based on the facts, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and sincere and accurate police investigation, but on what the courts, or in Britain, the Crown Prosecution Service, chooses to put before the courts and what they choose to disclose. Hence, a highly decorated in the New Year's honours list this year, director of the CPS in this country, often known as the Criminal Protection Society, received her decorations having retired under something of a cloud for mishandling of a number of rape cases and failure of disclosure on her watch. One has to question the concept of celebrity status. We've just watched, I think it's called the Golden Globes. There were serried ranks of individuals. I hadn't got a clue who almost all of them were, making pretentious speeches about something that couldn't matter less. Namely clowns and janglers in the entertainment business who are grossly and obscenely overpaid. I would far rather see an award ceremony for women of value and men of value who are nurses and doctors and medical instigators wearing dresses that looked sensible and fitted them than a collection of professional floozies with their boobs hanging out on a red carpet.
Right, Greg, only you can move from courts to boobs. Greg,
is there much difference?
So let's just hope there are 2 points I wish to make. Let's hope and pray that juries and judges are not fooled by these actors on their frames and walking sticks. And I will take it as read, Greg, that when I see you with a walking stick, you are on the way to court.
We can but hope you never see me on a walking stick. I'd be more likely to hit you with it.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
We hope you found this video interesting and informative. And if so, please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. Please ensure that you have subscribed to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of any future videos. Also, kindly visit our website at illuminatisilver.com, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe either as a free or paying member for regular email updates and offers. Disclaimer: Illuminati Silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.